Welcome to this week's episode of LdnOnt TV here on Rogers TV. I'm your host, Bronagh Morgan. Here's a show where we talk about what you're talking about in southwestern Ontario, London, Ontario. It's a municipality, and we are very fortunate to be talking today with Sean Meyer, who is the senior editor, or one of the senior editors?
Senior editor.
Senior editor at Municipal World magazine. Familiar to viewers, I'm sure, because he has visited the show before, I guess when we had our host, Sean Lewis.
And before, Lincoln McCardle.
When we had Lincoln McCardle, the person who I guess came up with the idea for the show. And also you've been on some election panels here.
Yeah.
So thank you. Welcome back to Rogers.
It's nice to be back in the space. It's been a long time.
So it's great to have you here. And so people in London, I'm sure, are familiar with you from Municipal World magazine. I know I follow you on LinkedIn, and I know I follow you on other social media, but you have kind of a storied and a pretty long career as a journalist here in London. So can you talk to us a little bit about your journey to becoming senior editor at Municipal World?
Sure. Actually, my journalism career will mark 30 years come next year.
Congratulations.
Which kind of boggles my mind. I've been in London now for 21 years.
Wow.
I was the first employee of The Londoner when it was launched.
Oh my goodness.
That's what actually brought me to London way back when. I grew up in Kitchener, so nobody ever came to London, with all apologies to London. We always went to Toronto if you went to the city.
Right.
So coming to London, I didn't know anything about it. 20 years later, I can't fathom living anywhere else. It's the best place I've ever lived, worked. It's a community that I love, and for a long time was lucky enough to write about it. At The Londoner, and then London Community News, which became Our London. It's been a fascinating journey, absolutely.
It's for those people who are not familiar with those publications, which I'm sure they're not that many, but so The Londoner was a free community paper.
Still is, I believe.
That is delivered to households across the city.
Yeah.
And you get to tell local stories, just like we do on this show.
Absolutely, just like this show. It was, back in the day, it was started by Phil McLeod and Gord Hume. They later sold it on to whatever media company. They all change hands these days, it's hard to keep track. But I moved on from there, and I forget the year now. Time blurs after the pandemic. About 10 years ago, I guess, London Community News was started, which was the same idea, a community newspaper. So my fascination has always been with telling people's stories, which is why this show is so great. And it didn't matter to me the topic, really. It was whatever story there was. I've been a sports editor, an entertainment reporter, and then early on at London Community News, they needed somebody to cover City Hall. And it turned out I really enjoyed City Hall. I mean, not necessarily some of the 9-hour meetings, but generally speaking, the topics and the conversation was never boring. There was always interesting things to write about. So I really grew to love covering this city from a City Hall perspective. There was, as we've all learned, City Hall is never boring in London. Not often in the best kinds of ways, but there's always things to talk about.
Right. So now, taking you back to the beginning of your career, so did you go to school for journalism?
Conestoga College in Kitchener. It gave me the foundation. I will always credit them for it. They taught me how to write a story. It took me, nearly 30 years, and I'm still learning how to do this, of course. But they taught me how to interview somebody. They taught me how to take a halfway decent news photo, which I learned to do. And then from then on, it's like most things, I believe, the more you do it, the better you get. I still have a scrapbook with my articles from my first paper. They're terrible. I look at them going, who wrote this? What is this? They're so cringeworthy, but I still keep them just because. In fact, I have those, and I have every copy of The Londoner from the day it started to the day I left. 3 great big boxes of them, which I probably should stop hoarding, but I like to keep mementos, so.
That's really nice.
I just keep stuff, especially when it has to do with my career. I still have all my notebooks from our London. There was once upon a time a story that you were supposed to keep your notebooks for X number of years, I don't know. I still have them in a drawer, so I could pull them out and I could actually look at the notes and remember the stories that I wrote, which is kind of fun. Most of that stuff was taken down when Our London was closed. That website's gone, but you can still find them on Metroland websites across, well, certainly Ontario anyway. And it's nice to be able to look back and, oh yeah, I remember that story and remember where this person did. I've always enjoyed learning those stories, so nothing better than getting paid to talk to people.
One of the things that I love about, having this show is just all of the interesting people that you get to meet.
Oh, for sure.
In journalism. So for me, a lot of times guests will reach out to Rogers to talk, say they have something interesting that they would like, Rogers to talk about on this show or another show. And some of it has to do with just like, I do a lot of jobs, so I know a lot of people. So for somebody like you starting out in journalism, how did you find stories and how did you find people to write about?
Well, my first job was in a town called Palmerston, which has, at the time, around 2,100 people. So everybody knew the local paper. So I was fortunate then that if I went to the bar to hang out after work and people needed, hey, we should get our story in the paper, Sean will be at the bar. So they went and found me.
Convenient.
There was no social media back in those days, so.
Convenient.
They just had to know where you are, and if I went to a curling event or a farmer's market opening or town hall because council was meeting, I covered council back then too, much different in a small town than something like London, but
absolutely
still important stories to tell. So once you put yourself out there and people gain some sense of comfort that you are going to tell their story properly, they will come find you again when, oh, I need to tell this story, or hey, somebody came to me, I would like to promote this thing, can you write something up for me? And sure, no problem. So as time goes on, you just get better at learning your community. Whether it's a tiny town like Palmerston or London, you get to learn your community. You know what's happening in your community, and so you write about those things. If you're there for any length of time, there are certain things that just happen year after year.
Right.
You'll always cover the Santa Claus parade and pick any of those. And then fair season.
Right.
Small town, Midwestern Ontario, which is where I grew my career, always was fair season. I've covered Western Fair. It's the same idea, but exponentially bigger. When you're in a little town, that best pumpkin contest is a story that matters. So you write about. I don't care what the topic is. I get great enjoyment and personal satisfaction from being able to tell whatever the story is. I also happen to enjoy seeing my name in print. That's getting paid is great too, don't get me wrong, but it's the byline that is the most exciting thing and always has been.
Fantastic.
From my first one to the one I got last issue of Municipal World.
Municipal World, and I do want to dive more into what Municipal World is all about, what's been going on for you, I guess the last couple of years as senior editor, and what you've got coming up. But we do have to take a break, sure. So stay with us viewers, and we're going to have more with Sean Meyer after the break.
This program is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Carbon monoxide is a deadly gas you can't see, smell, or taste.
Homes with fuel-burning appliances and/or attached garages must have working CO alarms installed outside all sleeping areas.
Don't let the silent killer get you. Install working CO alarms today.
I'm Jennifer Slay, the host of What's Up London. Join me each week as I meet Londoners who are doing extraordinary things and helping to make the city a better place to live. Watch What's Up London Mondays only on Rogers TV.
I started volunteering for Rogers last year in March, I want to say. So I grew up playing sports. I loved hockey growing up. My dad was a really big hockey player, so he got me into it, and I would always watch hockey games and that sort of thing. But I really want to branch out of my comfort zone, and that's what Rogers has also allowed me to do. I've learned to think on my feet really quick, how to kind of put myself out there in ways that I wouldn't before and just be fearless in terms of that. I would say just go, show up, do it once. If you don't like it, that's okay. You don't have to go again, but you might just absolutely love it. There's so much diversity and variety within that you can try, and you're almost just bound to find something that you're gonna love.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Welcome back to LdnOnt TV here on Rogers TV. Having a great conversation with my colleague in journalism, Sean Meyer, senior editor, Municipal World magazine, came all the way from Kitchener to London, now is the senior editor of this, I believe, nationwide magazine.
It is a nationwide magazine. It's actually, in a really tiny way, a North American magazine because Municipal World has members across Canada. We also have 4 municipalities in the United States, so we are starting to branch out there as well.
So a member-based publication, what does that mean?
Well, as most people in the journalism field these days know, the struggle to make any publication survive is advertising. And it is always difficult. That's not our primary revenue generator. We have members. They buy memberships in the magazine, so I think it's around 3,000 members across the country contribute to us. In return, they get the magazine, they have access to the website, they have access to all the content that comes from Municipal World, which is the oldest magazine in the world covering municipal politics.
Get out of here.
It was founded in 1891.
Wow.
Which means we're older than many of the municipalities that we actually cover.
And founded where?
It started in St. Thomas and eventually made its way to Union, Ontario, which is, for people in the local area, it's just a little bit down from Shaw's Ice Cream. So it's a real challenge come summertime when I have to drive home and drive past Shaw's and not stop. But
what a strange thing to do. I've never thought of driving past it. Huh.
Yeah, it's a wonderful little spot. It's also, Shaw's is one way, Port Stanley's 10 minutes the other way. So it's a great place to set up shop, only 35 minutes from my doorstep to the office.
What's in Municipal World magazine?
Pretty much anything that involves a municipality. So we write stories about individuals, like profile pieces. I largely do most of those, but sometimes it's something much meatier to our audience. Our audience are municipal staffers, politicians, people in the sector. They all want to know it's a planning issue or solar power or HR. We do a lot of HR stuff. Particularly in a pandemic, there's been lots of stuff to talk about HR when it comes to how an office place will work. Well, it's the same in a municipality. All those municipalities sent not all of their staff, but most of their staff home. And how did they survive and still provide service to everybody? Well, we've told lots of those stories. Typically, there's 8 or 10 articles in a magazine. There's also, we have a group of columnists who, some are every issue, some are every other issue. We're a monthly publication, so they can bring a different kind of perspective to the usual content of the magazine, which is written largely by professionals in the sector. We don't actually produce most of our own content. We approach the sector, we have many contacts across the country. More importantly, with our history, they're coming to us. Something big has happened in their community, they want to share it with the country. Municipalities, God bless them, they don't like creating new things. They love taking what other municipalities have done and making it work for them.
If it works, it works.
If it works, it works. If the wheels don't broke, don't fix it, or however that saying goes. But you will find all kinds of things, case studies, and just ordinary news articles in the magazine that will catch interest. And municipalities, and they've told us, they took something they read in the magazine, put it in their own municipality to better their municipality.
I love this.
Yeah, it is a very niche market, of course. Municipal government, I think there's 3,500 municipalities across Canada, something like that. but they all have the same ideas. Municipal government is, as they like to say in the sector, it's the one closest to the people. And it's true. Your street plowing, your garbage, your water, when you turn that tap on, if it's not working, it's not Queen's Park, it's not Ottawa, you're calling the City of London, what's wrong with my water? If my garbage isn't being picked up, if there's too many potholes on the street, and it's London, there's probably potholes on your street, you're calling the city, and you want to know how to do that. Well, the municipality, take this for example, if there's a new innovation that, say, an app that a municipality has launched that allows the people to directly communicate with them about the pothole on their street, and then the pothole can get fixed. A municipality will see this and go, oh, I didn't know that was a technology. Let's go talk to them. They'll go get it, and then the people in that municipality can get their pothole fixed.
It's really not just about writing about community, but it's building community. You're kind of building community right across the country.
For sure, and it is literally across the country. It doesn't matter what the community is, the size, big cities, small towns, urban settings, rural and northern. There's all kinds of different shapes to communities, but they all have similar problems. The scale might be different. Homelessness is something we've written a lot about. London has a great plan that is being talked about widely across, certainly Ontario and across Canada these days. That's the sort of thing where if that story gets out, it might spur thought in a different community who didn't think of approaching something that way. The City of London contributed an article to our magazine a few issues ago now about our London family and how the city dealt with all of that. Well, then municipalities across the country can read how London dealt with that and maybe adopt their own sort of system for dealing with those kinds of conversations. So it is a tool for municipalities to find out what's going on across the country.
Beautiful.
I get to write about that.
That's fantastic. So other things coming up for Municipal World. So for people who maybe don't have access to that magazine, I think you're online as well, or some of the articles are online?
We have the magazine articles are available on the website, but they're behind a membership wall.
Of course.
We do have online content that's open to the public. A lot of my feature stories. I have an upcoming one with Mayor Josh Morgan here in London. A couple of weeks down the road, but it's coming.
Cool.
So there is content on the website that you can get free to the universe if you want to read about whatever municipal topic strikes your fancy.
And I know there's other ways to interact with Municipal World magazine, and there is, I think, a nomination that's coming up. Is that right?
That's true. We promote it heavily through our Twitter, which is @Municipal World. 2019, we launched a contest, an award really, it's not a contest. It's an award marking women of influence in local government, because we want to champion more women to become involved in local government, because as we all know, that's not an easy gig to get into for women these days. It's a very harsh environment, so their efforts deserve celebration. And I'm very proud to have been helping to launch that award, and I'm also part of the process of selecting it. We are currently accepting nominations for the 2023 Women of Influence Award.
Fantastic.
You can find that through our Twitter, on our website. Go in there and submit, I think it's 500 words, I believe, about some woman in the sector. Submit it, and it will get chosen. Last year, we had nearly 100 people from across the country nominate women from this country, from this sector. Actually, I shouldn't limit that. We've had 2 American winners as well.
Fantastic.
So telling those stories allows us to then help promote women in this sector. And there are some, I've interviewed every one of the 17, I believe, previous winners. I've written stories about them, and their accomplishments, the power that they bring to their office, they're remarkable, and I love telling those stories. So I'm looking forward to ending this season. June 2nd, I believe, is the cutoff deadline. And then comes the trauma of trying to weed through these remarkable people, which is sometimes troubling.
So for somebody who writes all the time, you do, I do, 500 words is not that much to ask. And it can be less than 500 words, I'm sure, as well.
Yep.
Nominate a wonderful female in your community, and potentially they could be the winner of this fantastic award, Municipal World magazine. So get your nominations in by June 2nd, was it?
June 2nd it is.
Thank you so much, Sean, for chatting with us today. We do have to take another break, and we have an awesome youth guest because
I'm looking
that's how
forward to
we
hearing
end
this.
our show every week. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with more LdnOnt TV.
This program is brought to you by the following sponsors.
With clubs, leagues, and courts in every province and territory across Canada, squash is the sport for wall-to-wall fun, fitness, and friendship. From coast to coast to coast. Learn to play, and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
Jeff from Chillin' and Grillin' with Jeff. We're back for season 3. We've had the opportunity to see some great backyards and have some great barbecue. Join us, Chillin' and Grillin' with Jeff.
As each day passes, we have one guarantee. The sun will rise in the morning and set in the evening. Like the sun, you will also have a time to rise and a time to set.
Welcome back to LdnOnt TV here on Rogers TV. Having a fascinating conversation with one of my colleagues in journalism. Now I get to talk to a colleague in art, Avni, founder of HeARTification. Tell me all about this awesome organization that you came up with.
Yeah, so I run a nonprofit organization called Heartification, and I started it in January of 2019 when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
And the inspiration behind the whole business is when I went to India to visit my family, my grandpa had shown me these postcards, and on the postcards there were paintings of like landscapes and different things, and they were so beautiful. And I found out that those paintings were painted by those who were part of the Foot and Mouth Association.
Beautiful artwork, yes.
Yeah, so they have disabilities, so they use their mouth and their feet to paint these paintings, and they were so beautiful. And I started thinking that society puts all these like standards and like stereotypes on people with disabilities and illnesses, that they can't do this because of this, or they can't do that because of that. And we really shouldn't do that, because this is living proof of, you know, that people with disabilities and illnesses can do anything as long as they put their mind to it. So
Absolutely.
That's the whole inspiration behind my business. And what I do is I sell my artwork, because I'm an artist myself. I started painting when I was super, super young. I've always been into art. I'm not really like this sporty type of person. And my parents put me in art classes when I was 4 years old. And then since that, I've just developed my talent and expressed myself through art. And that's the goal of Heartification, is to help those with disabilities express themselves through art, because I think that's super important to have an outlet to express yourself, especially if, you know, keeping stuff in, and, you know, people get so busy with lives, we forget to have that outlet to express ourselves and just be creative and do whatever we want without thinking, oh, who's gonna think about like what I'm doing, kind of thing, right?
So some of your beautiful artwork is here.
Yes.
And so Heartification is a website, an organization that sells your art, and the goal is to raise money.
Yes, it's to raise money to host pop-up events where people with disabilities and illnesses can come and paint for free. I supply all the paints, all the canvases, all the materials, and they can just come and paint and express themselves. So I am hosting an event on June 17th, which is a Saturday, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Central London Public Library downtown in the Lawson Room. So if anybody who has a disability or an illness, or if you know someone who would love to attend, please email me, which my email is avni.heartification@gmail.com, and you'll be put right on the participant list, and I'd love to have you because my goal is to affect as many people as possible, and you can just come and paint whatever you want. There's no rules, there's no restrictions, you can just express
yourself. And you supply all the materials.
Yes.
Probably, I would hope, a little bit of instruction maybe, because this is a masterpiece. These are like all masterpieces. So your journey as an artist, how did you get from like being a 4-year-old that loves art to creating masterpieces like this to also sharing your gift with others?
Yeah, honestly, I don't really remember. It's art has always just been a part of my life as long as I can remember, and I think I really owe a lot of it to my parents. They've supported me the whole way. My dad, he owns his own business, and when I started it, when I told him this is what I want to do, he was so supportive, and he's helped me through the journey. So I owe a lot to him, and my mom too. She also has supported me a lot, and she gives me advice. And my sister too, she's really supportive. She's only 11 years old, but she's supportive, and she actually has her own business as well. So that's, I feel like,
what an amazing family.
Yeah.
All right, so getting involved with Heartification, you've had these pop-up events before?
Yes, I've had one before, and then I couldn't have any because of COVID. It was right before COVID. But that one was a huge success. We had multiple people with disabilities and illnesses come, like Parkinson's disease, and then an artist who was actually from the Mouth and Foot Painting Association. She came, Susie Matthias, and she was
talented.
Amazing. I know, it was so amazing to meet her, and I just felt so grateful she was able to come. And she's an artist herself.
Yes.
And she was painting with her mouth, and it was incredible to just watch that live, because you hear about these things, and I saw the postcards, right? But to actually see her painting with her mouth live, this amazing painting, it was just so inspirational and so incredible. And I had a gentleman with Parkinson's disease, and he was telling me how much my event, meant for him. He hadn't painted in years, and it felt so good for him to just paint and be creative and paint whatever he wants. And I had one of my mom's work colleagues' kids who has autism. He came too, and he just got to paint, and we had some participants from the Big Brothers and Big Sisters Association come as well. So
art really is for everyone, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much, Avni, for telling us about it and for hosting this, founding this business, sharing your beautiful art with us, and sharing your love and support of community as well. So what a great story. I'm overwhelmed. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you too to Sean Meyer, and thank you for tuning in to LdnOnt TV here this week. Hope you'll join us again next week for more.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
It's about sharing and caring. It's about doing and belonging. It's about living life to its fullest. And it's about laughing out loud. We are L'Arche Canada, and we're about witnessing and sharing the gifts of all people. Learn more about us today.
My daughter is 7 years old and has a frenemy. They have play dates that always end up in a fight or tears. This friend bosses her around and treats her poorly, but she still wants to be her friend. What's a parent to do?
I would let them acquiesce